Kurama has flesh, thus he has genetics. I don't think it works like that. Like, you can have genetics without flesh, or you can have flesh without genetics. Like, that's just possible.
Yeah, because like a bacteria cell doesn't have flesh. It doesn't
Exactly.
have the thing in between muscle and bone or whatever.
Yeah. And the other way around, even though it might not exist in our reality, you can still have flesh without that flesh having genetics.
Yeah,
There's
the
nothing
problem though is
wrong
I
with
do
that.
think technically a shadow clone of Naruto has
I
genetics,
agree.
but I don't think it can pass it on.
I think it could pass it on up until the point that clone
Maybe.
poofs.
And then it would go away.
Yes.
Probably. And that's where so like it wouldn't reasonably be able to pass it on probably, but I think it has genetics. So if you're gonna say that Kurama's like a shadow clone, that I will say that would kind of counter your point and argue that maybe he does have genetics in that case. But honestly speaking, part of this just depends on how Kurama's body works. Like, are we supposed to believe, like, does he have cells, for example? Nobody ever talks about Bijou cells. Not even Ten Tails gets talked about as having 10 tail cells,
Well,
to be honest.
even though this
Because
happens inside
that
of
would
Naruto's mind, Kurama's still hit with the Rasen Shuriken and is fine. In fact, that's another moment where it
well,
seems
I mean
like
we don't
his
oh
physical
you mean
body
like
just
when he
can be
hits them.
chakra. Like, they do the tug of war, and it's like he's pulling the chakra out of the Nine Tails. Like, you just
Yeah, and
physically
then
see him,
Kurama
like,
gets skinny.
turn into smoke, basically. Yeah, like, the chakra just dissipates off of his physical body. Same with Baryon mode at the very end when he's just flying upwards. Like, his physical body's just turning into smoke, basically. The chakra is just being extinguished.
Yeah.
His physical
Because
body
he's supposed
is.
to be made of pure chakra.
Yeah.
And so if Kurama has cells, I think it's indisputable. He should have genetics. He should have DNA if he's made of cells. They never say it, so we don't know. Now, chakra itself, wouldn't make this argument. You could argue, oh, there's actually cells inside chakra. I don't think so. Because the reason I say that is because, well, there's blood cells. There could theoretically be chakra cells because the chakra network is compared to the circulatory system. So it is theoretically possible. However, they do say the physical energy side of this, but indirectly chakra is produced from the cells. It is cells, it's produced from the cells, like any other energy. So I think it's just like ATP, it's just like
Well,
normal energy. It's just what they can do.
they say
But
chakra's
with that in mind,
comprised
chakra
in
itself
every
shouldn't
cell,
be
but,
cells.
but they don't say the opposite. They
Huh?
don't say that every cell is comprised in chakra.
Yes. Like, well, yeah, either way. Well, no, no, the cells aren't made of. I don't think any cell is made of chakra because the point is you combine physical energy from the cells, which is just like our physical energy, with your mental, spiritual energy. You mix those to make chakra, which is essentially the part that we can't do in real life, as far as we're aware.
What do you mean, as
Not to
far
mention
as we're
that I guess
aware?
we don't
Well, I guess
technically
that's true. As
have
far as we're
spiritual
aware,
energy.
yeah. As far as
Yeah,
we're aware.
as far as we're aware.
Yeah, I'll take that.
But Anyway, until Oodie and I
Possible.
discover it and show you all. But that's for a later date. Anyway, the cells aren't made of chakra. They're not run by chakra. Chakra is something you basically do after the fact. Your regular physical energy is
Yeah.
what you're running on for the most part. Chakra shouldn't be made of cells. And if Kurama is made, if he's genuinely is made of just pure chakra that is just made into a physical body, similar to how the fire cell jutsu turns chakra into fire, Kurama, to some extent, even though he has a physical body, doesn't have a real physical body. It's not made of cells. It's not made of matter. It's energy that looks like matter, assuming he is pure chakra.
It's the
That's how I would describe it.
same as what Kaguya does in the work, to where she looks like Kaguya, but she actually just is the Ten Tails. Like, if you take off Kaguya's head, you're taking off who knows what of the Ten Tails. Maybe like the Ten Tails' left leg randomly. It could just look like that.
Even the shadow clone is another example to where it is just chakra. It just looks like a human.
Yeah.
Or water style jutsu. It's just chakra, but it looks, feels everything like water. It doesn't have the actual oxygen molecules in that water. Like,
Yeah. The thing about, like, if Kurama does have cells, that's indisputable he has genes. I don't think that's the case. because again, he was made using creation of all things. We don't know how, because the thing is, Hagoromo separated the Ten Tails' body and chakra, so Kurama just has or is the Ten Tails chakra. So the difference between Kurama and the other tail beasts versus the Ten Tails would be the physical body, and that difference leads to the different personalities or whatever, which tells you that's stored within the body as well, rather than the chakra, which is interesting. But they don't have like the instinct of the Ten Tails or the personality of the Ten Tails, and like the Ghetto Mazo is the body of the Ten Tails. So I don't think Hagoromo's basing the body of the tailed beast based on either himself. So it's not like a Hagoromo shadow clone that, or a clone whatever in any regards that is like based on himself at all. So I don't think it would have Hagoromo's genetics in that regard. I also don't think it's based on the Ghetto Mazo either, because otherwise it would be similar to the Ten Tails regardless.
No, so
I think it's
in this case, it would be a matter of Hagoromo either instinctively or consciously chose, like, I want Kurama to be made of living normal cells. Because of that, she would have to have genetics, because the cells will not function if they don't have a DNA template, and that's what genetics are. So it just wouldn't work. So if he has cells, he would just have genetics by that point.
So this
That's
gets into a
Kurama
thing.
either chose or instinctively chose to just make him that way.
Well, first of all, that could just be anime BS to where, he's using creation of all things. He could just make cells that don't need that, and they just function anyways.
Yeah, but okay, and theoretically, sure, but I think that would be the less likely case, given that, like, from Hagoromo's perspective, like, why would he go out of his way to make it like that? Just all the cells he knows. If he's thinking cells, he's thinking normal cells. I think if he's gonna have cells, it's more likely they would just be normal cells in that regard. That's not saying that he has cells, though, like, because the way it is described is pure chakra. Let's just actually check the data books and just see. I'll look at Starboard Data Book 4, the most updated one.
Even if they have normal cells, those cells probably were mutated or altered in some way by the Biju chakra.
We don't know, but if you're going to say that, the same would apply. This would go against your Himawari arguments, because by that logic, the Biju chakra would mutate the sperm and egg cells and make Himawari, Boruto, Naruto different in some capacity.
That would be assuming that it mutated Naruto, which I don't think is the case anyways.
Yeah, but I think if you're going to use the logic that the Biju chakra mutated Kurama's own cells, I think it's a pretty good chance that Biju chakra would mutate the child that's bathed in that chakra, like the growing cells bathed in that chakra.
Well, I don't think it's bathed in the chakra, but that's another conversation for another day that we've already had a previous day. Yeah. This is really pedantic, but I think it's important, and I already know what you're going to say, so just hear me out. Let me cook for a minute. So, DNA, genetics, and blood are 3 different words. These 3 different words exist for a reason, to say 3 different things, even if they're all similar or tangentially related or whatever. They're similar, but they're different, which is why we have these different words. For example, blood. There's DNA in blood or whatever. There's genetics in blood. That's fine. There's also other things in blood. Like, blood isn't just genetics, which isn't just DNA.
Yeah, blood's not the problem with this is blood is the clear standout. If you say it's in your blood, like in reference to a genetic thing, which requires context, we know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
But if you just say blood, frankly, genetics is not the first thing you think of. You're thinking of the red liquid and probably other things that it does in your body, your heart, the fact that it delivers nutrients to your cells. You're probably not thinking about anything, because even saying it's in your blood, technically, no, yes, but no, it's not. Like, yes, I guess it is in your blood, because your blood has cells which contain your DNA. It to some extent, it's almost like you should be saying, like, it's in your sperm or it's in your eggs, because that's what's actually passing it down. It's not your blood that's passing it down.
Exactly.
It's just something. It's a saying.
No, I know.
Whereas
and that's
DNA and genetics are much more like an intertwined. Like, you're really talking about the same thing, because genetics as an overall term. This is where the difference is. To say genetics, you could be referring to the study of genetics, how genes and traits are passed down. the DNA isn't like a study. It's like genetics is like biology. You don't say like I'm taking a DNA class. You say you're taking a genetics class because like it's DNA is not the study. DNA is the physical thing. It's the molecules we're talking about.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's why I
so that's
started by
where the
saying I
difference
knew
is.
what you
But
were
if you're
gonna say, because I knew you were gonna say all that. So...
yeah,
And once again, if their explanation is the blood, I'm completely fine with that. It's once they start using that dirty G word that I have the problem.
wait, who? Who using blood in what context?
Just in terms of the Himawari conversation, if they explain it with that at all.
Well, yeah, but okay. So, for example, by blood, though, if they say it's Kurama's blood, you're just gonna be okay with it.
I mean, I'm not going to be happy about it, but as long as they don't use the dirty G word, I'll consider myself the
Oh
winner.
my god, bro. No, bro. If they say Kurama's blood, that would be more annoying. Like, I mean, personally, like, I mean, I've already said this before. In terms of why Kurama's inside of Himawari, I think the one that makes the most sense is like his chakra was already there to some extent. Like, because, I mean, yeah, you can just write if you want to say it's destiny. I mean, sure, you can make destiny be whatever you want it to be. But now we're getting into a situation of like, as far as he's describing, he didn't choose that destiny. So what happened to the you choose your own destiny theme? Like, you know, we gotta like remember our themes here. So I don't like that one as much. Not to say you can't do it, but I think it's a harder one to do. Now, just it's your Uzumaki and Hyuga blood that shouldn't have any bearing on the tail beast realistically. So I like the other one. If you want to say the affinity has to do with the Uzumaki and Hyuga blood because it relates back to Hagoromo more so, that's fine, you know. But that's two different things.
When I was watching your reaction of the chapter or whatever, you're like, when you got to this part, you're like, oh, Udi's not going to be happy. He said that. It's funny because I had the exact opposite reaction where it's like, oh, Kamui's not going to be happy when he says that. Because of the three things Kurama mentions, the inherited sliver of my chakra, the bloodline, or destiny, none of those use the dirty G word. Like, I'm sure what you're referring to was the bloodline thing, but again, that's something that I originally said.
No, I was referring to her inheriting some of Kurama's chakra because that was
Okay.
my thing the entire time. The reason we were arguing was because that was my best guess for why he was inside Himawari. And that was one of the three options.
No,
that's
fine.
why
That's
I
fine. That's
said
fine.
you're not going to be happy about that.
So I'm not happy with that. You're right, but I just found it so funny that he didn't just give an explanation. He gave three possible explanations, and all three of them, none of them said like it was just hilarious to me because we like discussed this so much. Regardless of the sliver of chocolate thing or whatever.
Argue, I'm not going to say is a definitive thing. You could argue the inheritance was through genetics because Himawari didn't inherit it through Kurama being like, bump this with me, I'm giving you my chakra. It was through a birthing process, which would be genetics in that case. So you could still argue he did technically say it indirectly. But
well, there is a lot of blood that comes out with the birthing process as well. And so, you never know.